Betsy and Thomas for the American Intelligence Media. Hey guys, you remember that time a long time ago? Gosh, it started about 8 years ago. Betsy and Thomas jumped on and we were decoding Trump tweets. Well, we've decided we're getting back to the job of decoding now that Trump is back in office, or perhaps he's been in office the whole time, but just that dash between 45 and 47 was a sting operation. But that's what we're going to find out as the weeks and the months roll on. But for now, Douglas, who is Thomas Paine in the ass of the globalist, and Tyler, Betsy Ross, what we're going to do is start taking these presidential actions, the ones that interest us, and start showing you, telling you what they mean in the big scheme of things. Now, you're not going to hear this kind of commentary anywhere in the internet, and I'll tell you why. How many of the people that you listen to have been telling you about Senior Executive Service, SES? Well, I don't hear any of them talking about it today, even though there was an executive order about the SES on Trump's first day of signing orders. There is nothing in the news about it. Alt media has nothing to say. Well, I would say that alt media probably didn't even know what SES is because they are not good, thorough researchers. And the media is not going to talk about it because, I don't know, are they still operating under the Board of Broadcasting Governors? What is that? The Bureau of Broadcasting Governors? Okay, the same thing. So you're going to hear the truth as we see it, and it's backed with research. Thomas, pain in the ass of the globalists? Let's start today with the executive order on the Senior Executive Service.
The globalists ruled Trump's first administration, and he still changed things dramatically. And we could make the list, but hey, all you have to do is look at the executive orders. That's the list. He did it last time, and we had provided him, and we know that these reached him, a list of, 12 things to do immediately if he wished to be the president. Otherwise, he will have no control, and the globalists will control him. And in fact, he started on that list. And then a lot of it got abnegated by senior executive service members and also people he appointed, which in almost every case, when the president appoints somebody, it doesn't come underneath your standard rule of thumb, the payroll, what do you call it?
Office of Personnel Management?
Well, the Office of Personnel Management says how much you make for how long you've been there. What's that called anyway? They don't want to do that. When Rex Tillerson was hired by Trump, how much do you think he was paid? Do you think he was paid normal D.C. bureaucratic wages? No. So when you hire someone at the top of an agency who's supposed to be an expert, they use the Senior Executive Service, and you don't have to go through the normal hiring practices. As a matter of fact, Hillary had a group that supplied John Podesta with like 8,000 of them that were appointed by Obama. They fired a lot of them. They're not supposed to. And they got 10,000 of them now, senior executive service members. Look it up in the Wikipedia. It was started at Jimmy Carter's time. Funny that now, on the first day of Trump's new administration, which he never once mentioned the senior executive services in his entire 4 years before, he gets rid of something that Jimmy Carter allowed to start at the same time that election rigging started. And Jimmy Carter was responsible for that, and they tried it down in South America. And now it's still controlling everything. But they do it so cleverly that it's a legal thing. And, of course, Trump had a very good executive order on basically stopping lawfare. In other words, warfare in law. But let's talk about the Senior Executive Service.
Don't rush. You're talking so fast.
Every one of the 56 agencies that has an official title, and there are actually many more sub-agencies. They all worked independently up until Chevron deference, which said that federal agencies and their administrators may not make administrative rules that stand alone and direct that agency. Well, that's what's been happening for years. They all became independent silos. They all had senior executive service members at the top who couldn't be fired, who were appointed. This is what Trump called in his previous 4 years unelected career officials. A career because they can't be fired. Unelected because they're appointed as senior executive service members to the 10,000 positions that work inside of all these agencies, both the executive federal agencies as well as other federal groups, whether it's in the Senate or in the Supreme Court or in the House of Representatives. These are people who are the key gatekeepers. They're the ones with their control on the opening of the dam or the closing of the dam, and they take their orders from a union called the Senior Executive Service, and it is in fact a shadow government. People would call this a myth. They'd call it a complete nonsense because they inadvertently demean it by calling it the deep state. It's not the deep state. Yes, you can literally say that if you were to put a title on the Senior Executive Service, that it is the deep state, but worse than that, it's the shadow government because nobody seems to know it exists. So Trump makes a specific executive order about the Senior Executive Service that completely pulls all their teeth out and all their claws out. They have no more power. And this is beautiful. He did the same thing with the National Security Council. And what's very, very odd, myself having worked for the National Security Advisor in the NSA and took oaths then, in relationship to that, I knew how that structure worked, and I saw that it had gone sheer to hell. But the Senior Executive Service, it's almost the same thing. You put a bunch of idiots at the top in charge. They think they're in charge of the whole agency, and they don't even, they act independently and autonomously. Why? So that the president can have plausible deniability. That's what that's all about. That's why there's black ops. Okay, first off, there's no such thing as a black ops that the president shouldn't know about. That's completely insane. These are all federal agencies. So the CIA, FBI, the DOD, any of them, there should be no Highlands Forum. There should be no DARPA, let alone getting National Science Foundation money infinitely, stealing patents. That's the British Serco. So the SES was almost like a landed gentry in America on the order of what the British had. If you were an aristocrat and a landed gentry, then you were exonerated from all law. Everyone knew that you were about money and pedophilia and power and control and every vile act of perdition that there is. And that's what goes on in the Senior Executive Service. Remember Andrew McCabe? We brought out the Plum Book. I will bet you money, Mr. Trump, I hope you're listening to these as you did when we did the Trump decodes at the time. That
he doesn't have time because you're dragging it out in the weeds.
No, these are very important points, Mr. President. This is all about you. You probably don't even know the Plum Book exists. Okay? We brought it out. We're the only people that I've ever seen on the internet or anywhere refer to the Plum Book. Look up, except it won't tell you who is in the Plum Book, who is an active member of the SES in this year, because it doesn't exist. There's no such list.
Well, they did it purposely.
The only list was owned and directed by Bruce Orr, who ran the section of the Department of Justice that paid SES members exorbitant prices far above the standard rates that the government can pay for any of those positions. So almost every senior executive service member gets paid far beyond what any government worker makes according to the payroll scale. So Bruce Orr is part of the committee that says this person in the SES, this person in my downline in this agency, and by the way, all federal agencies are supposed to have a cabinet member. And the cabinet member answers to the president. Period. That's it. There's nobody gets to make any decisions. Policies are from the top down. That's the way our government is established, so that there would be one person with the crazy power that the president has, and it should be the best person that we have in this country. Because why? Otherwise you get a Biden giving himself last-minute pardons for all of the criminals that we have seen for the last 4 years that are in government. So what Trump has with the SES, he has to get rid of all these judges. He also did another one on justice, and he's the corrupt judges. Look at all the corrupt justice. What did he say in his inauguration speech? Jack Smith, go back to wherever you came from. Where was it? The Netherlands? The man wasn't a citizen of America, and he took Trump to task.
The Hague.
The Hague is in the Netherlands.
Okay.
The point is that this man wasn't even an American citizen. He had no authority at all, and we had to put up with this for how long? So the weaponization of the Justice Department is only done through the SES, because though many of those people are appointed, because they're the people writing it. For instance, this executive order about the SES gives the power, takes it from Bruce Orr at the Department of Justice, who still hasn't been fired, who let Andrew McCabe, after 5 convictions for hiding the Clinton Foundation investigations and many other things, and for lying, did not even get punished, and even then sued the government and got his full retirement from SES. So he couldn't be fired, kept his retirement, even again with multiple felonies, convictions. So this is what happens. Bruce Orr and Nellie, part of Crossfire Hurricane to take down Trump. Peter Strzok, Lisa Pate, none of them, no prosecutions, nobody goes to jail.
The Kleinsmith. They always want to point out that.
Yeah.
You know?
He had 2 weeks.
Oh yeah. A little pat on the hand.
Sorry, 2 months in
But
jail.
look here, let's get it really tight here, real tight. I was very excited because when I was looking through the executive orders and I saw this on senior executive service. Now, I know people push back on me all the time. They say, why do you go on and on about this? Stop talking about this. Nobody knows what it is. Well, the reason they don't is because you've got alt media people out there protecting the senior executive service. And I've said this over and over again. If your alt media person is not all over SES, and I'm not talking about a casual mention with a little laughter and then move to the next subject. I mean deep dive. All the alt media people should be diving as deep as your girl Betsy has on the SES. And if they're not, they're there to protect the SES. You watch. They're not going to be talking about this executive order. And then you've got the mainstream media who they probably don't even know what an SES is. They just, because they're so clueless and brainwashed about everything. But I'm not going to give President Trump a pass on any of this until I see where he's going with it, because the person he has nominated for the director of the Office of Personnel Management is a guy named Scott Cooper, Kupor, a Kapoor, I don't know how he pronounces his name. And when you look at his bio, which is over at aimfortruth.org, you'll see he's a venture capital swamp creature. I mean, my goodness, he was even with the firm, the initial funding group with Mark Anderson that stole Leader Technologies' social networking invention and seated Zuckerberg as one of their front men. So he's an inside guy. Inside guys, they protect each other. He's not going to do anything with the SES. This goes against the British Pilgrim Society. So is Trump going to have to say to Mr. Kapoor, you need to get your job done as written by the executive order? Is he setting him up? Or is this a plan to keep stalling in the reform and the destruction of the SES for another 4 years? I see both sides here.
Yeah, it's just amazing because we have to see what's going to happen. Okay, so does Trump gather people around him that he person to person says better than a non-disclosure agreement? If you screw me, I'll put you in jail for the rest of your life. That's what he should say to every single person that works in his staff. Now, every executive order I've read so far gives all power to him. Period. Look at any of them. And so senior executive order, SES order, that is like, he took all their power away. Nobody's going to want that job now because now it's based upon merit. There was no merit involved in any senior executive service position, 10,000 federal government positions. Okay. So let's go back to the whole spirit of the thing. If they don't control the money, sorry, Bruce Orr, and if they don't control who gets hired, because there's another executive order that says how the hiring process is going to go for all federal positions, and it's all going to be based upon merit, then hello, all of them get fired immediately because you don't even know they exist. Okay, and the ones who do exist, you'll say, no. They can't be senior executive service member. Yes, heads of FBI, heads of CIA, Robert Mueller, special counsel, every fake position or position that is what would you call it, very public, oftentimes goes out of the pay scale of a normal bureaucrat and goes into a level where we say, well, he's so experienced. He's the most respected man in D.C. That's what they said about Robert Mueller, okay? That's why we have to pay him these exorbitant prices and spend millions of dollars for an investigation that only gathers the evidence to hide it. That's all ended. Why? Because Trump has been subject to it. He knows the ins and outs of it now.
We always told you that the senior executive services, which at the time were 8,000 plus, but yes, have grown to 10,000, was Obama's secret army to run the government from the inside. They are his lieutenants to get his agenda done. Well, guess what? Donald Trump has just seized those troops. He has seized all of Obama's lieutenants.
Well, I know you don't want me to go off in the weeds, but I have to on this one. The U.S. Digital Service, created by Eric Schmidt for Obama. Valerie Jarrett, Big Mike, and Barry Soetoro have their bunker in D.C. right down the street. And we paid $4.5 million just for the security of that bunker. And, of course, the Obamas have never spent a night there. And that's the bunker. And that's the U.S. Digital Service. That's where the computer for the U.S. Digital Service is. They said it was in the White House, and there was one probably in the basement of the vice president's house, yes. But the point is that Eric Schmidt tied together everything. What we now know as Palantir for corporate and government use is a total awareness, a total information awareness. They tied together every digital system. And now that there have been so many breaches, those are U.S. government breaches, so that they have total information awareness, folks. So Trump just took that over and says he's going to name it what, honey? It was U.S. Digital Service. Now it's
the Department of Government Efficiency.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's Doge. So the Doge, okay, that's why Elon Musk can't contain himself, because he gets to sit at the computer for the U.S. Digital Service, which basically can go into anybody's records at any time, live time, target them, not only surveil them, but attack them. These systems are so sophisticated. I've spent so much time writing articles about this. It's beyond anything you can imagine. So just whatever the horrible, evil imagination you have of the government pervasiveness, it's a lot worse. And it's not even the U.S. government. It's actually the British corporate elitists through what came down from Cecil Rhodes and the three Rothschilds who founded Cecil Rhodes Round Table.
All South African, where the Musks are, and Errol Musk, Elon's daddy, Mr. Emerald himself, and you see Elon, behind Trump was Elon Musk and Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and Bezos with his cheap broad. I mean, showing her bra and everything. What a cheap little hussy she is. But anyway, I saw them as heads that are going to one day go on somebody's wall, maybe in Mar-a-Lago. He's going to capture these. And we can see here at AIM how that can be done. But back to Elon and his, his movement, his little Heil moment where he beats his chest and throws his arm out. That was too practiced and too perfect. Because you see, you have to look at Elon and look deeply and see where is he going with this. He wants to be the dictator of the North American technate, and he's been positioned himself as close to Trump as possible because he and his daddy's crazy scheme, at some point, he's going to take over America like he takes over all these other corporations, right? And then they're going to roll it all up in Canada and Greenland, and Elon Musk is going to be the Trudeau of the North American technate with all of his buddies, and we're going to run the whole system off of the Everything app. And if I can say this, and you can even have 10% belief in it, then don't doubt that that's not the plan. We're talking about maniacs here.
Almost everything he does is a national security issue. Therefore, it has to be run through the Office of the Office of Assessment, as well as Highlands Forum and In-Q-Tel and SAIC and Lockheed Martin's L3 and DARPA. Okay? Everything he does is his part of it is fake. They asked him the other day to explain why he says the Substack for when he inherited Twitter was so bad and he didn't even know what a Substack was, and then he had to start cussing at the person. Don't believe for one second. He is the government front for really the Pilgrim Society. Why? Because he is using government funds to do the research. So we're being charged for him to blow up those missiles all the time. And remember, he blows up about half of them. And half of what you hear is fake anyway. But they're all the secret, super secret stuff, all done through SpaceX and his companies. And they really do now have hypersonic missiles and stuff. But does Elon know how they work? No. I'd like to ask him a question about the plasma shielding on those and see what he says. Anyway, the point is, these executive orders are only the tip of the iceberg. This is the ones that he had prepared, and they say that there's 200 of them, and some of them are memorandums, some of them are directives, some of them are simply orders to these agencies, some of them are to stop things, some of them, like I said, you can make one order that stops 80 different Biden ones by just saying everything that he did during his administration under this blah, 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 as well as all these are written so broad, except the SES one and the one for the National Security Council. They're so exact that beyond a lawyer, we're talking a constitutional lawyer who knows the ins and outs of black ops and everything else, because they cover everything in these, everything that can be imagined. So the power is now set up. But remember, the power was set up by Obama to create martial law, even if we had a coronal mass ejection. Well, we had one in May of 2024. If Biden wanted to declare an emergency, which there already are multiple emergencies going on right now, martial law can be instilled. This gives Trump the power to do basically anything he wants, but it specifically gives him the power to enforce the law. There is no law for DEI or equity, ESI. There's no such laws, so you don't have to abnegate them or rescind them. You just have to say there's two sexes. And how about the one on sex? There's two sexes. Okay, it's just saying that the Constitution exists. The laws exist. Chevron deference says that you administrators, you don't get to make laws. You don't get to make rules that have the power of law. The rule of law is back in town. So just as we did the Q drops before on the reading between the lines of Trump tweets, we're now going to read between the lines of Trump's actions. And this is only the beginning. Remember, the beginning began when he got elected, and it looked like he was going to be elected, and anything short of killing him and or some fancy dance of the Biden administration with Electoral College. No, didn't happen. That means he is the chosen one. So Donald Trump's apotheosis is happening before us, and we're going to interpret it.
Okay, here's our challenge. We had all of our Betsy and Thomas audios up on YouTube, and YouTube took down our entire channel at the American Intelligence Media back in the day. The whole thing, everything, every frickin' thing they took down. So now that Trump has claimed that there is no censorship, I'm going to place this audio, Thomas, on YouTube. And we're going to see how long it lasts. And I'm also going to create a page over there at Aim for Truth. Eventually, it'll be filled and people will see it. Because I challenge you to take any of the AIM articles. Like, go to AIM, search for Senior Executive Service. You're going to find a ton of stuff over there. Pick out something that interests you and take it over to Truth Social and post it. And see if you're still banned. If it's still censored. Go over to X and post some of the juicy articles we've got on Elon Musk. Because remember now, there's no censorship anymore, so let's challenge the system.
Now, the one thing we said was going to be the litmus test for Trump is what he does about the new pandemic, which has already been declared. Now, I don't know if anyone noticed this, but people aren't noticing Tedros of the World Health Organization as much as they did before. I'm going to make this bannable by this next remark. Trump got us out of the World Health Organization. One of the first things he did in the first administration was the first thing in our list, which was what? Get out of the United Nations. And then I list them all. The World Health Organization, the World Bank, the World Trade Organization. Okay, when you say tariffs, you destroy the World Trade Organization. You just blew it up. When you say foreign aid, which he does, he's got a whole executive order on that. You just blew up the World Bank. When you say no more wars, you just blew up the entire military branch of the United Nations, which is supposed to be the peacekeepers. Nonsense. When you say there's only two sexes, you just blew up UNESCO. When you say so I said at first, he didn't just get us out of them. Well, he's going to defund them. And guess what? That isn't even a treaty. That's an agreement. It's just like the Fed. There's no law that makes the Fed exist. So he just said he's taken $1 trillion from the Fed, and he got $1 trillion that day and maybe $1 trillion the next day for something else. Okay?
And don't close the IRS. Just go create another agency and let it build up its revenue stream, and then you diminish the IRS because it shouldn't be around anyway. And then I had said this years ago, why can't Americans make money being Americans? Why are we paying taxes that eventually go all over the world? The world needs to pay us to be their customer. We should all be paying no taxes. And I pay so many taxes. That's why I'm so no taxes.
He already did that. It's called the External Revenue Service.
Yes, I know.
And that's what she's talking about,
Yes.
folks. So when he came to power the first time, what did he do? He says, I'm going to repatriate, I forget how much money, like an untold amount of money from companies coming back to America so that he didn't go after them with the SEC for tax evasion and not for manipulation of the markets and for monopolies and all kinds of crimes, RICO crimes and all kinds of crimes. So the point is that Trump is saying all this and what he's done, but he said it in the words of what's his name? Philbin. What's his name?
Philbin.
What?
I think it was Phil Philbin. If y'all remember back in the Senate with the impeachment trial nonsense, there was that constitutional lawyer there, thin guy with glasses. Philbin is his name. Last name is, remember his last name. Amazing, brilliant. And when Douglas was reading this order that involves the intelligence community, and we'll do that in a separate audio, okay, coming right after this one, I kept thinking, I hope that guy Philbin has a team writing this stuff.
I swear, when I saw Philbin, I was like, bowing down, like this guy is so intelligent that he makes me feel like an idiot.
Yes.
And yet, completely humble, completely calm, beautiful delivery, no upset. I mean, he was like a master of true justice.
Showing us we are a country of laws and of order.
And Tyler says that's who Trump has been hiring to do these, because these have been worked on for a long time. These aren't the executive orders of Trump before. None of these are his words, but this is his ideas. Here's what it says. Dear agency, I am bitch slapping you. I'm the boss, and you're fired now. And I might keep you around if I want. That is what he has done to these people. And it's like all across the board. He's done this to all the border people. Why didn't all the border people stand up and say this is unconstitutional? How come they kept doing their job? Why did ICE keep doing it? Because we were in a lawless age when there were laws that unless you know them, you could go to jail for just doing your job of enforcing the law. And that's exactly what happened to them. So now what are we going to do? It's called posse comitatus. I don't know. I'm going to have to look this up if it's ever happened that the President of the United States is going to take the military into action in our own borders. Okay. This is fantastic.
We could talk forever. I'm turning this one off.